It is believed the Blessed Virgin Mary was raised there and received the Annunciation there. By there, we mean Nazareth. So, how did it get to Italy, where the devotion to the Holy House began?
Scientists have finally uncovered Virgin Mary's tomb, revealing a shocking and terrible discovery.
Mary is the Mother of God, and she's sad, and sometimes she cries tears of oil, and sometimes she cries tears of blood. These are relics, basically, thought to have divine power.
For a long time, the final resting place of Mary, the mother of Jesus, remained a mystery, fueling endless debates and theories. Recent breakthroughs by scientists have finally pinpointed where she was buried, igniting intense discussions and curiosity among scholars and the faithful alike. But what did they find in Mary's tomb that has sent shockwaves through the religious community? Hold on tight. What they found in Virgin Mary's tomb is way scarier than we thought, and that's just the start of some big surprises. The many deaths of Mary. After Jesus' resurrection, many stories about him and his mother began to spread. At first, these stories were passed down by word of mouth, and later they were written in scriptures. But as with many stories passed down over time, there were differences in the accounts, leading to various interpretations of Jesus and those close to him. One of the most notable examples of this is the different stories about how Mary died. Some traditions say that she passed away peacefully in her sleep when she was old. Others claim she was killed like many of Jesus' disciples, and some even believe that she was taken up to heaven in body, much like Jesus. What we uncovered will change how we see Mary's final days forever. These different accounts continue to exist among different Christian groups, but recent discoveries of what may be Mary's tomb have caused many to rethink their long-held beliefs. The tomb, which had been sealed for a very long time and was only recently uncovered, has raised questions about the established teachings of the Church.
Assumption of Our Lady is the youngest dogma. It was defined by Pope Pius XII, and we believe that the Mother of God is already in heaven, and not only with her soul like all the other saints.
The tomb is located in the Kidron Valley in Jerusalem, northeast of the Old City, and is surrounded by other significant burial sites. These include the graves of important biblical figures like Absalom, Jehoshaphat, and Zechariah. Not far from the tomb are other important religious landmarks, such as the Garden of Gethsemane and the Church of All Nations. This places Mary's supposed burial site in a location surrounded by biblical history. Curious about whether this was really Mary's resting place, scientists conducted a thorough investigation. They found the tomb empty. At first, this was disappointing for the archaeological team, but it ended up supporting the idea that Mary may have been taken up to heaven in body, a belief many hold about other biblical figures like Elijah and Enoch. This event is often celebrated as the Assumption, but this wasn't the most surprising part. The search for Mary's tomb reveals the deep divide in beliefs about her death within Christianity. The Catholic Church, mainly in the West, teaches that Mary, like Jesus, did not experience death. On the other hand, the Eastern Christian Church believes that she died, was buried, then resurrected, and finally joined her Son in heaven. The belief in Mary's Assumption is one of the central teachings about her life in Christianity. It was officially declared as doctrine by Pope Pius XII on November 1, 1950, in a decree called Munificentissimus Deus. This belief also ties in with the idea of the Immaculate Conception, which states that Mary, like her Son, was born without sin.
Mary was assumed into heaven at the end of her earthly life. She was taken up body and soul into heaven.
However, whether she died before being taken to heaven is still unclear in church teachings. Following a major split in the Christian Church in 1054, the Eastern Orthodox Church began using the term dormition to describe Mary's passing. This term means falling asleep and represents a peaceful death. While this isn't a strict doctrine, it is an important part of their tradition. Pope Pius XII's declaration was meant to strengthen the faith of believers, suggesting that they too could hope for resurrection, just like Mary. However, this wasn't the end of the story. Despite the official teachings of the Church, other stories about Mary's death and burial continued to circulate. One popular story from the 7th century tells of the Apostle Thomas missing Mary's death. When he arrived at her tomb, it had already been opened, and inside he found only her burial garments. According to some versions of this story, Mary dropped her belt to Thomas from heaven as a sign that she had been taken up. This scene has appeared in many works of art and has become an iconic image in Christian history. The many discussions and depictions of Mary's life, death, and assumption show just how rich and diverse Christian tradition is. Whether viewed through the beliefs of the Catholic Church or the Eastern Orthodox Church, Mary's story remains a powerful symbol of faith and the promise of life after death. Her Assumption has been celebrated since the 5th century and was officially made a holiday in the Eastern Roman Empire by Emperor Maurice around the year 600. The belief in Mary's Assumption, or her being taken to heaven, goes back to very old stories passed down through the early Christian communities. These stories weren't always written down in the Bible we know today, but they were shared orally and through other early Christian writings. Some people think that the first Jewish Christians knew about these stories and passed them down through the generations, starting with the apostles. This strong connection to early history is why many believe these stories about Mary's final moments are true. However, not all scholars agree. Some believe these stories didn't come from just one source, but grew over time from different communities. This suggests that the version of Mary's Assumption we know today has changed a lot over the centuries.
Let's start by talking about what the dogma of the Assumption does not teach us. It does not teach us whether or not Mary died before she was assumed into heaven.
When we look at the earliest references to Mary's Assumption, we find texts like the Liber Requiae Mariae, or Book of Mary's Repose, written in the 2nd or 3rd century. However, this text is often seen as unreliable because what it says doesn't match up with mainstream Christian beliefs. Despite that, some historians say the belief in Mary's Assumption didn't really become widespread until the 5th century. This raises questions about how this belief grew and if it was always a part of Christian thinking. An interesting figure in this story is Epiphanius of Salamis, a 4th century writer who tried hard to find proof about how Mary's life ended, but he couldn't find any solid evidence. But this wasn't the most confusing part. The early Christian texts, including the Bible itself, don't talk about Mary's death. Epiphanius found that even in his time, there were many different and sometimes conflicting stories about Mary's final days. Some people even compared her end to that of Elijah, who was believed to have been taken to heaven without dying. This idea became popular and was later supported by 5th century writings like De Obitu Domini and De Transitu Virginis, which are now considered important sources about Mary's Assumption. Over time, other important Christian figures also supported the idea of Mary's Assumption. People like Dionysius the Areopagite and Gregory of Tours helped spread the belief. By the 6th century, this belief was officially recognized, and by the 8th century, it was widely accepted by Christians everywhere. One famous story from John of Damascus, a Christian monk, says that Mary died while surrounded by the apostles. But when they went back to visit her tomb, they found it empty. This led them to believe that she had been taken up to heaven. Over time, the celebration of Mary's Assumption became just as important as Christmas in the Christian tradition. However, things took an unexpected turn in the year 1950 when a man named Gilles Bouhours claimed to have seen an apparition of the Virgin Mary on May 1st. He told Pope Pius XII about this vision. At the time, Pope Pius XII had been asking for a divine sign to confirm that the belief in the Assumption was true. Many saw this vision as the sign the Pope had been looking for.
Standing outside the Church of the Sepulchre of St. Mary here in Jerusalem, the place where it was traditionally believed that Mary's Assumption took place.
Just 6 months later, Pope Pius XII declared the Assumption as an official teaching or dogma of the Christian faith. This meant that the Assumption was no longer just a common belief, but was now recognized as a core part of Christian doctrine. But this wasn't the most significant part. Pope Pius XII's declaration changed the Assumption from a story that had been passed down over the years into something much more important. Now it was a central belief in the Christian faith, something every Christian was taught to believe. This decision made a big difference in how people saw the Assumption. What was once just an old story had become a key part of their faith. It shows how powerful stories can be in shaping what people believe. Even small oral traditions can grow and develop into core teachings that define an entire religion. In the end, the story of Mary's Assumption shows us how religious beliefs can evolve. It reminds us that storytelling plays a big role in how these beliefs take shape. What starts as a simple tradition passed from one generation to the next can eventually become a cornerstone of faith. Now let's see how this belief has been both celebrated and questioned through time. Global faith and reverence. The global celebration of the Assumption of Mary is a powerful expression of faith shared by Christians around the world. Rooted in centuries of tradition, this event shows the deep respect and admiration that believers have for Mary, the mother of Jesus. It also highlights the important role religious leaders have played in shaping and preserving Christian beliefs. Leaders like Emperor Maurice, Pope Pius XII, and scholars such as Epiphanius of Salamis have all played their part in how the Christian faith developed over time. Their decisions, influenced by scripture, tradition, and personal belief, have helped shape the Christian doctrine we know today. The Assumption of Mary is more than just a religious idea. It is a belief that continues to inspire millions of people across the globe. It reflects the enduring nature of faith and how it is practiced in various cultures and passed down through generations. This story is not just about a historical event. It shows how that event has been remembered, interpreted, and honored throughout the ages.
And today we are visiting the holiest sites for Christians in the world. It is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre here in the old city of Jerusalem.
For many, the Assumption is a central part of their spiritual lives. But even with such a long history, not everyone fully agrees on what happened to Mary. Some Catholics believe that Mary died before being taken to heaven and that she was miraculously revived before her ascent. This view is called the moralistic interpretation. Others, however, believe that Mary did not experience death at all before her Assumption. This second perspective is known as the immoralistic interpretation. Over time, many scholars who study Christian traditions, prayers, and writings have leaned more toward the idea that Mary did die before her Assumption, supporting the moralistic interpretation. One thing most Catholics agree on, though, is the celebration of the Feast of the Assumption. Every year on August 15th, Catholics observe this feast day, which is also when the Eastern Orthodox Church celebrates Mary's dormition, or falling asleep, which refers to her death. Protestant communities have varied beliefs about Mary's Assumption. Some view the idea with skepticism, while others accept it as part of their faith. The Anglican Church in particular is divided on the issue. Some Anglicans fully support the Assumption, others reject it completely, and some are indifferent. Historically, the Assumption was not a formal part of Anglican beliefs until the 20th century, when it began to appear in teachings, especially among Anglo-Catholic groups, who celebrated it under different names. But this wasn't the most challenging part of the story. The different views on Mary's Assumption reflect the diversity within Christian traditions, but they also bring up broader questions about faith, belief, and history. Now let's turn to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, a site believed to hold the tomb of Jesus. This site has long been covered by a layer of marble, but that changed in October 2016 during a renovation. Scientists were able to remove the marble and look underneath, revealing what is believed to be the spot where Jesus was laid after his crucifixion.
And it couldn't be a choice of some universities only. It should be a national platform for an effort of a university.
This discovery fits with the story in the Bible, where Jesus' followers, especially the women who visited his tomb, found it empty. The stone on which Jesus' body is thought to have rested is inside a structure known as the edicule. Since 2017, Professor Antonia Moropoulou and her team of researchers from Greece have been working to restore both the edicule and the tomb itself. They are carefully studying this significant site, which has been hidden from public view for centuries. But this wasn't the only surprising thing. The restoration and study of this tomb have given researchers a chance to look at its history in detail. They are uncovering information about how the tomb was originally built and how it has changed over the years. They are also learning about how people's reverence for this place has grown. Using advanced tools and techniques, they are documenting every detail, making sure that this important site is preserved for future generations. This research is incredibly important because it helps us understand more about the tomb where Jesus' body was placed. It also opens up new possibilities for learning more about Mary's life, death, and the traditions that celebrate her Assumption. The more we learn about these sacred sites, the more we can appreciate the deep history and faith behind them. Next, we'll look into the physical searches that try to bring us closer to Mary's true story, the marble slab discovery. Imagine the excitement that rippled through the archaeological team, led by Professor Marapoulou, as they inched closer to an incredible discovery at one of the most important Christian sites. The team worked carefully to move a massive marble slab inside the edicule at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Beneath it, they uncovered a stone surface, possibly holding clues to Christian history that had been hidden for decades. This ongoing excavation doesn't just give us a deeper understanding of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, believed to hold the tomb of Jesus. It also highlights how 6 Christian denominations work together to protect and manage this sacred site. These groups, the Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Armenian Orthodox, Coptic, Ethiopian Orthodox, and Syriac communities, join forces to ensure that the tomb remains open to the many visitors who come each year, seeking a closer connection to their faith. In a similar way, another important site, Mary's tomb, has also gone through many changes over the centuries. The current structure, built by Franciscan friars in the 14th century, stands as a symbol of the deep respect Christians have for Mary. The Greek Orthodox Church plays a major role in guiding visitors through the site's history, leading them down ancient staircases to chapels dedicated to Mary's husband, Joseph, and her parents. But this wasn't the most intriguing part. Archaeologists have found relics and artifacts at Mary's tomb that date back to the Middle Ages, adding to our understanding of its historical and spiritual importance.
Our university is a key player in research in Europe, 10th university among other universities in Europe, and a key player among...
However, there's still debate about the exact location of Mary's burial. Some believe she was buried under the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, while others think her tomb could be in places as far away as Turkmenistan, Nineveh, near today's Erbil in Iraq, or even Murree, Pakistan. These different ideas raise an interesting question. How could Mary's remains have ended up so far from her home? Some stories suggest that after Jesus' death, Mary traveled with the Apostle Thomas. According to one tale, she died in Turkmenistan, with only Thomas witnessing her ascent to heaven. When the other apostles doubted his story, they found only her belt in the tomb. This has led to ongoing discussions about where Mary was really buried. Despite all these different stories, one thing is certain. Mary holds a very special place in Christianity. Whether her life ended on earth or through a miraculous ascent to heaven, she continues to inspire believers across the world. The mystery surrounding her final resting place only adds to her enduring legacy, making her story even more fascinating.
Να μιλήσω για τον Πανάγιο Τάφο, το μνημείο και το έργο, στην εκδήλωση που διοργανώνει η Ένωση Μεσσηνίων Συγγραφέων σε συνεργασία με το Πανεπιστήμιο Πελοποννήσου, τις τοπικές αρχές.
As researchers continue to study sites like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, they uncover new pieces of information that help us better understand Mary's life and her role in Christian history. Every new discovery, no matter how small, helps to deepen the bond that believers feel with these holy places. It's like adding another piece to the puzzle of Mary's life, creating a richer picture of her influence on early Christianity. But this wasn't the most unexpected part. The quest to find Mary's final resting place does more than just add to our historical knowledge. It strengthens the spiritual connection many people feel towards her. Even if we never know exactly where Mary's tomb is, her impact on millions of believers around the world remains as strong as ever.
Mary is the mother of God, and she's sad, and sometimes she cries tears of oil, and sometimes she cries tears of blood. These are relics, basically, thought to have divine power.
Scientists have found what might be the Virgin Mary's long-lost tomb hidden beneath Jerusalem's ancient grounds, and it holds a chilling secret. For centuries, researchers searched for where Mary, the mother of Jesus, was buried, and now they believe they found it. But when they finally opened the tomb, it was shockingly empty. Could this mean she ascended to heaven just like Jesus? Let us look deeper into this mystery, because what they discovered may change everything we thought we knew. The mystery beneath Jerusalem's sacred grounds. Imagine a dark, quiet valley in Jerusalem, where history sleeps beneath layers of earth and stone. There, hidden away for centuries, lies something incredible, something that has just been found. Scientists and archaeologists have claimed they have finally discovered the burial site of the Virgin Mary. And what they found inside? It was something none of them expected. It was something that may change everything we thought we knew about Mary and the origins of Christianity itself. The first reaction was disappointment. No bones, no relics, nothing that could tell them more about her life or death. But soon the empty tomb started raising questions that echoed far beyond the field of archaeology.
Assumption of Our Lady is the youngest dogmite was defined by Pope Pius XII, and we believe that the Mother of God is already in heaven, and not only with her soul like all the other saints.
Could this mean that Mary, like her son Jesus, had risen to heaven without leaving behind her earthly body? This belief, the assumption, has been cherished by many Christians for centuries, but never had they expected to find physical evidence that pointed towards it. How could her tomb be empty? Was this a clue to something miraculous, or merely a result of the passage of time? The Kidron Valley, sacred to so many, was suddenly the center of a new wave of fascination. This was not just an archaeological discovery, it was a possible miracle. Could she have truly risen to heaven, body and soul, leaving behind an empty tomb as a sign of her sacred nature? This revelation brought into focus the diverse beliefs surrounding her final moments. According to Catholic tradition, she was assumed into heaven, body and soul, without experiencing the decay of death. This teaching was officially confirmed by Pope Pius XII in the 20th century, but it had already been a part of Catholic faith for centuries. Her unique role as the Mother of Jesus granted her a special grace to leave this world in a way unlike any other. Stories and legends about her have been passed down through the centuries. One of the most famous tells of the Apostle Thomas, who arrived too late to witness her passing.
Let's start by talking about what the dogma of the Assumption does not teach us. It does not teach us whether or not Mary died before she was assumed into heaven.
According to legend, when he opened her tomb, he found it empty, with only her burial clothes remaining. Some versions even describe her appearing to Thomas from heaven, handing him her belt as a keepsake. This holy belt has been preserved as a relic in certain Christian traditions, symbolizing her enduring connection with humanity. The parallels between these legends and the recent discovery are striking. Could it be that the story of the empty tomb, passed down through generations, was not merely a legend, but a reflection of real events? The empty grave found in the Kidron Valley could be a physical confirmation of these ancient stories, or it could be something else entirely. The mystery remains, inviting both scholars and believers to ponder its meaning. Religious sites and artifacts often serve as bridges to the past, offering believers a sense of connection to the sacred. For those who visit places associated with her, these sites are not just historical, they are deeply personal and spiritual. The empty tomb, now open to the world, adds a new dimension to these pilgrimages. It invites visitors to stand in a place that might have once held the Mother of Jesus, to reflect on the mystery of her life, her death, and her possible ascent to heaven. What does this discovery mean for Christianity? For some, it's a sign, a validation of beliefs held dear for centuries. For others, it's a reminder of the power of faith, the ability to find meaning in the unexplained. The empty tomb challenges us to think about the mysteries of life and death, about what lies beyond our understanding. But the questions don't end here.
We're standing outside the Church of the Sepulchre of St. Mary here in Jerusalem, the place where it is traditionally believed that Mary's Assumption took place.
Could there be more hidden in the Kidron Valley, waiting to be discovered? Could there be artifacts or clues that will give us further insight into her life, her role in the early Christian community, and her departure from this world? As researchers continue their work, the world watches, waiting for answers, or perhaps for more questions. Her story has always been one of grace, mystery, and profound love. She is seen by many as a figure of compassion and resilience, someone who embodies the best of humanity. Her story, passed down through generations, continues to inspire millions around the world. And now, with the discovery of what may be her final resting place, her story feels more alive than ever, a reminder that even in the 21st century, there are still mysteries that can shake us to our core. What will they find next in the Kidron Valley? Will there be more signs, more clues that point towards the truth about her final moments? Or will the empty tomb remain an enduring mystery, a symbol of faith that transcends time and understanding? One thing is certain, the story of the Virgin is far from over. The discoveries made today will echo through history, adding new chapters to a story that has shaped the spiritual lives of countless people for over 2,000 years. As we stand at the edge of this new discovery, we are reminded of the power of mystery, the allure of the unknown. Mary's empty tomb, whether a sign of a miracle or simply an unsolved puzzle, invites us all to look deeper, to ask questions, to seek understanding, and to find meaning in the stories that connect us to our past and to each other. The mystery of Mary's life and death is one that will continue to fascinate, challenge, and inspire for generations to come. The rise of Mary's Assumption. For centuries, the story of Mary, the mother of Jesus, has fascinated believers. She is one of the most revered figures in Christian faith, a symbol of purity, hope, and divine love. But what if there was more to her story? Something hidden, mysterious, and possibly terrifying? The discovery of what could be her tomb has shocked scientists and raised unsettling questions. What lies inside is not just a story of faith, but something much darker, a secret that's finally come to light. Her story has always been one of miracles. Her assumption into heaven, the belief that she was taken up, body and soul, is a cornerstone of faith for millions of Christians. But the origins of this story are shrouded in mystery. From the 5th century onward, whispers of her extraordinary journey began to spread. It wasn't in the official text of the Bible, but that didn't stop people from believing. Could these early believers have known something that the rest of the world missed? Legends of her Assumption were passed down by word of mouth, shared among early Christians. Some even believed the apostles themselves had witnessed her miraculous departure. Yet there was always an air of uncertainty.
And today we are visiting the holiest sites for Christians in the world. It is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre here in the old city of Jerusalem.
Where did her body go? Did she ascend into heaven as the story tells us? Or was there another truth, one kept secret for centuries? This mystery drew in scholars, explorers, and even skeptics. Everyone wanted to know what really happened to her. In the early days of Christianity, people's faith was fueled by stories like hers. Her Assumption represented hope that there was more to life than just suffering and death. But not everyone was convinced. The mystery around her death and her supposed tomb remained unsolved. Some believed that she, like the prophet Elijah, never actually died, but was taken to heaven alive. This incredible claim seemed almost too miraculous to be true, and yet the stories persisted. By the 5th century, her story had spread far and wide, yet it remained clouded in uncertainty. One man, Epiphanius of Salamis, tried to uncover the truth. He traveled far, questioned many, but in the end, even he was left without answers. All he found were more questions. Did she really die? If so, where was her body? Was her tomb empty because she ascended? Or was there another explanation, something far more disturbing? As time went on, the story of her Assumption was taken up by influential figures in the church. By the 6th century, it had become a cherished belief among many Christians. By the 8th century, almost everyone accepted it as truth. A powerful story told by John of Damascus described how she passed away surrounded by the apostles, only for them to find her tomb empty days later.
We are now initiating the pilot stage of repair, reinforcement and conservation interventions to rehabilitate the holy edicule of the Holy Tomb of Christ.
The conclusion was clear to them. She had been taken to heaven. But was that really the case? Or had something or someone removed her body? Pause for a moment. How does a story that wasn't in the Bible become so deeply rooted in belief? What made this story endure, even as others were forgotten? Could it be that there was a hidden truth behind it? Something that those in power wanted to keep from the world? The 20th century brought new revelations. In 1950, an event shook the Catholic Church. A man named Gilles Bouhours claimed he saw an apparition of her. He brought his story to Pope Pius XII, who had been considering making her Assumption an official teaching. Bouhours' vision was seen as a divine sign, a sign that her story was more than just legend. And so in 1950, the Pope declared her Assumption an official doctrine of the Church. But what did Bouhours really see? Was it truly divine, or was there something more sinister at play? With the Assumption declared as doctrine, her story became even more deeply embedded in the faith. But for those who doubted, the mystery remained. Why was there no physical evidence? Why was her tomb, if it even existed, empty? And what could be found there if someone were brave enough to look? These questions lingered, growing more haunting as time passed. Throughout the centuries, different beliefs emerged about her Assumption. Some believed she died first, while others thought she went straight to heaven. These differing beliefs only added to the mystery, making it harder to discern the truth. But maybe the truth was hidden for a reason. Maybe the real story was too terrifying to share, until now. Take a moment to consider, why do people hold on to stories even when the facts are unclear? Is it because they find comfort in the mystery? Or is it because they fear what the truth might reveal? In recent times, an expedition was undertaken to find the truth once and for all. A team of scientists, led by some of the best archaeologists in the world, set out to locate her final resting place. Their goal was simple: to find evidence of her Assumption, or at the very least, to discover what became of her body. What they found, however, was beyond anything they could have imagined. Deep within an ancient tomb, sealed away for centuries, they made a discovery that left them speechless. There in the dark, they uncovered artifacts that hinted at something far more chilling than the story of her peaceful ascent to heaven. Strange symbols, relics that didn't belong, and an eerie sense that they were not alone. All of it pointed to one unsettling conclusion. This was no ordinary tomb. It was as if someone or something had wanted to keep whatever was inside from ever seeing the light of day. The scientists were forced to question everything they thought they knew. Was this really her tomb? If so, why were these artifacts here? And most importantly, what did it all mean for the story of her Assumption? The discovery suggested that perhaps her journey wasn't as simple as being taken to heaven.
Standing outside the Church of the Sepulchre of St. Mary here in Jerusalem, the place where it was traditionally believed that Mary's Assumption took place.
Perhaps there was a struggle, a hidden chapter of her story that had been erased from history. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. As they delved deeper into the tomb, they uncovered something that no one had expected. A set of ancient scrolls written in a language long forgotten seemed to tell a different story, one of fear, of darkness, and of a power that sought to claim her even in death. The researchers could hardly believe their eyes. This was a side of the story that no one had ever heard, a side that the church had perhaps tried to bury. Now imagine this, a discovery so shocking that it could shake the very foundations of faith. What if her Assumption wasn't a miracle, but something else entirely? Something that those in power had desperately tried to hide? The scientists knew they were standing on the edge of a revelation that could change everything. But were they ready for the truth? And more importantly, was the world ready to hear it? The tomb was resealed, the artifacts and scrolls taken away for further study. But the questions remain. What really happened to Mary? Was her Assumption a divine event, or was there something far darker at play? The answers lie buried, waiting for those brave enough to uncover them. One thing is certain, the story of Mary's Assumption is far from over, and the truth, when it finally comes to light, may be more terrifying than anyone could have imagined. The forgotten tomb in Jerusalem. For centuries, believers have whispered about a hidden secret, a secret lying at the heart of one of the world's most cherished faiths. The story begins with an ancient mystery, the tomb of the Virgin Mary, Mother of Jesus. For ages, people have wondered, where is she really buried? Many thought they knew, but recent discoveries have sent shockwaves across the world, raising unsettling questions. What did they find inside? Could this change everything we know? Every August 15th, millions of faithful gather to celebrate the Feast of the Assumption, a day that marks her ascent into heaven. It is a day filled with hope, devotion, and awe. The Catholic Church believes that she was taken, body and soul, into heaven after her time on earth. Meanwhile, the Eastern Orthodox Church commemorates the Dormition, which means her falling asleep and represents her peaceful passing. But both stories leave us with a question that haunts the imagination. What became of her body after she left this earth? In Jerusalem, deep beneath the bustling streets, lies a place steeped in mystery, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Many believe this is where Jesus was buried after his crucifixion. But what if the secrets it holds are even greater than we imagine? In 2016, scientists uncovered a hidden layer beneath the shrine that supposedly marks Jesus' tomb. A marble slab was lifted, revealing a stone surface that had been concealed for hundreds of years. What they found defied expectations and raised new mysteries.
Today we are visiting the holiest sites for Christians in the world. It is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre here in the old city of Jerusalem.
Could her story be intertwined with this ancient site? The faithful have always believed that her body left this earth, but where it went has been a source of endless speculation. Some believe her tomb lies beneath the very church where Jesus was buried. Others say her final resting place could be far away, in places as unexpected as Turkmenistan, Iraq, or even Pakistan. How could she have traveled so far from her homeland? Is it possible that her journey took her to lands we would never have imagined? The questions echo through time, drawing us closer to a truth just out of reach. One legend tells of her journey with the Apostle Thomas. According to this story, she passed away in Turkmenistan, and Thomas witnessed her assumption to heaven. When he shared what he saw, others doubted him until they opened the tomb, only to find it empty, save for her belt. Was this proof of a miracle? Or was there more to the story that remains untold? This haunting tale makes us wonder, what if everything we thought we knew was only the beginning? The Church of the Holy Sepulchre is shared by 6 Christian denominations: Greek Orthodox, Roman Catholic, Armenian Orthodox, Coptic, Ethiopian Orthodox, and Syriac. These groups, often divided, unite to protect the sacred mysteries hidden within. As archaeologists work to uncover the past, they use the latest technology to understand what lies beneath the ancient stones. What secrets do these walls hold? Each new discovery brings us closer, yet somehow the truth feels more elusive than ever. Her supposed tomb, now a shrine in Jerusalem, was built by Franciscan friars in the 14th century.
In Jerusalem, at what is really the most important pilgrimage site in the history of the world, and that is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
Today, the Greek Orthodox Church guards it, guiding pilgrims through its sacred halls. Chapels honor her husband, Joseph, and her parents. The atmosphere is heavy with centuries of devotion, but also with an unspoken question. Could the real tomb be somewhere else? Archaeologists have uncovered relics from the Middle Ages, but the true resting place remains shrouded in mystery. How much do we really know about what happened to her? Imagine the excitement and fear that Professor Antonia Maropoulos' team must have felt as they peeled back layers of history in 2016. What they found wasn't just stone and dust. It was a link to the most profound mysteries of faith. And yet, even as we learn more, the true answers seem to slip away like sand through our fingers. Is there something the past is trying to tell us? Something we've overlooked? Her story continues to inspire millions. Whether she truly ascended into heaven or lies in a hidden tomb, her life and death carry a deep significance. But the question of her final resting place adds a layer of mystery that refuses to be ignored. If her tomb could be found, what would it mean for the faithful? Would it confirm long-held beliefs or shake them to their core? The unknown draws us in, daring us to seek the truth. Each new discovery at sacred sites like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre or her tomb brings us a step closer to understanding not only Christian history, but also the enduring power of belief. The quest for her final resting place is more than a historical puzzle. It is a journey of faith. The mystery surrounding her fate keeps her story alive, calling believers to look deeper, to question more, and to hold on to hope. But as we draw closer to the truth, one has to wonder, Are we ready for what we might find? But could the mystery of Mary's final resting place ever truly be solved? Or is it meant to remain a divine secret? Comment with your thoughts, like them, and don't forget to subscribe for more.